We are live. I'm Naijha Wright Brown, host of Naijha Speaks, also contributing for Unchained TV. We're going to Summit Up today. The Animal and Vegan Advocacy Summit took place this weekend in Washington, D.C. Eloisa Trinidad is here to share with us the experience. And later on, Samantha Salmon and Nurul Zachariah of Raw Food Health Empowerment Summit will talk all about the raw experience starting tomorrow. Eloisa, what was the most compelling experience you had this past weekend at the Animal and Vegan Advocacy Summit?
Hi, Naijha. I'm so excited to be here. I have to say, the panel that Christopher Eubanks, Connie Spence, Yvette Baker, and myself did, on decolonization, collective liberation, and the responsibility of white wealth. We packed the house. It was standing room only. And, just really amazing how many people showed up, stayed till the very, very end and participating, being in community with us, and really, learning what ways we can move forward and heal.
So, I heard that your talk or the panel that you were on, the decolonization, was intense. What are some of the challenges that we're facing right now in terms of the whole decolonizing concept in the movement? Can you talk us through that?
Yeah, I think one of the biggest challenges is actually the fact that the word decolonization gets thrown around a lot, and folks tend to confuse it with decoloniality, right? And so decolonization is really tangible action. And it really means, sharing those resources, spreading the wealth, giving back the land. So it's really tangible actions in order for us to move forward and for indigenous knowledge to be centered. And I think that's the biggest challenge across the board, not just only in the animal liberation space. And so within our panel, a lot of what we addressed was how really focusing on a few nonprofits in the animal rights movement, placates radical action, really disincentivizes social change as well, and that we need grassroots organizing power. And if funders want to see animal liberation, if they want us to move forward, if they want us to come together, they're going to have to get comfortable really funding folks that whose activism may look different, right? May not look as safe, because liberation praxis and fighting for social justice doesn't only look like 4 or 5 nonprofit organizations.
I totally agree 100%. Eloisa, thank you for sharing that. Can you talk to us about some of the work that you're doing with Vegan Activist Alliance and Chili's on Wheels? It is fascinating.
Absolutely. At Vegan Activist Alliance, we our work is centered around anti-colonial praxis, and what we really seek to do is spread those anti-species values and really uplift that all species have a right to be free from oppression, and regardless of species, and they have a right to their autonomy. And so we support activists in starting their own initiatives, as well as help people transition to veganism. And our work centers a decolonial perspective in order to move forward and heal. We're also working on policy. We're part of the new Animal Policy Alliance that is being led by the Humane League with a group of grassroots organizations from across the country. And it is modeled after the Open Wing Alliance, and hopefully it will grow like the Open Wing Alliance as well. And so really working on those individual changes while we work towards systemic change to better the lives of our beyond human relatives. And at Chili's on Wheels, again, doing that direct relief, providing food for communities in need and making veganism accessible, working on policies that address the underlying issues of poverty and what keeps people from making those choices that are better for them, for the animals, and for the environment.
Thank you for that. And thank you for tuning in, Tom. Tom says animal liberation now. Can you
I
talk?
agree, Tom. I agree.
Exactly, all the way from the Midwest and Chicago. Eloisa, can you, because you're hailing from New York, you do work in New York. Can you talk to us, us people of color, Black, Latino, Indigenous, about this relation between animals and what we're going through in terms of the social justice movement? Now, animal, to us is a derogatory term because we've been called animals. Can you kind of speak to that whole philosophy and where we need to go from here to there with it?
Absolutely. I think, animality has been weaponized and has been used against Black and Indigenous people, whether it was from calling us savages to directly calling us animals, right? To dehumanize us and to not allow us out for humanity. But, I really like to say that we don't exist just within these colonial systems. Our ancestors are survivors. They also experience joy. They also move forward with plant medicine. And so for us, what that looks like is really reclaiming that knowledge and tapping into that, and to consider what our lives look like outside of continuously fighting for our own survival and being in a state of stress. And so I invite everyone who isn't vegan or who isn't an activist but is vegan to really fight for our beyond human relatives. We have been leading the way. Indigenous people across the world, which include people of African descent, because there are Indigenous people all over the world, whether you're talking about Asia, Africa, Australia, India, and so on. And so I think that that's something for us to recognize, that while animality has been weaponized against us and has been used to hurt us, animals are beyond human relatives. They're here with us. They're here, on this earth. And we have done a great job historically before colonization at protecting them, even though humans throughout history have exploited animals in some way or another. It has been unlike what we are seeing now, right, with the factory farms and the dairy industry and so on. So I invite folks to live outside of what the colonial systems dictate to us and what they pressure us to continuously work towards, right? And not just our own liberation, but the liberation of all beings.
I love it. I am a fan of Eloise and the work that you are doing, because it's a very important work. And what were some of the conferences that you attended over the weekend? Was there anything in particular? Because you were on a panel. Was there any workshop or skill building? Because I know they had them all in different categories that really moved you, where you learned something.
I was on 3 different panels, so it was challenging.
You too.
Yes, yes, I was over there talking all the time, but one thing that I will say, I was really glad to see the presentation by folks from Latin America, from Africa, from Asia. There's so many people all over the world doing such amazing work, and I'm just so glad to be in a space where I feel that we are changing the world. We are working towards that. And thank you to everyone who's out there for participating in that transformation, because we need each and every one of you. I think, as far as our panel, I was just really floored by the amount of people that came up to us in the decolonization panel. And just for the folks in the audience, most of the people who attended were white folks, because as the conference was majority attended by white folks, right? And we need to change that. Just want to address that. But people were moved. They're ready to heal. I think a lot of times we think that folks may not want to hear these things, but I also have people from Asia, from Africa, really stating how impactful, how that gave them really just empower them to speak up against something that they have been experiencing. I had a young woman from Brazil who felt compelled to speak now when she goes back to Brazil. And I think that that's what we need to do, really share our lived experiences. All of our lived experiences are important, and share our knowledge. And through that, we empower others, to fight for our beyond human relatives, and also to fight for themselves. I think another thing that I really heard from the other 2 talks that I did on United Nations policy and also legislative policy within the U.S. is that our movement wants, changes. They want to really be involved in more policy work. They want to learn more about policy. They want to get political. They want to know how we can affect changes that better impact the lives of animals. So I was really glad to see that there was so much interest in the policy work as well.
Yes, exactly. And like yourself, I was really busy opening up, opening keynote, just keeping everything basic and, using our genuine true selves in the active movement and reducing all the infighting because 90% of the US population still isn't vegan, and so that under 10%, all of that fussing and fighting, it's just a waste of time. So just opening up and also moderating the social justice panel, as well as sitting on many ways to advocacy and careers in the vegan advocacy space. So yeah, just very busy as well. But it was great seeing the African continent there, as well as Asian continent and Latin America there. I was speaking to someone about them starting a vegan fest, a veg fest in Africa, and Africa Vegan Restaurant Week. So there's just so many things going on around the world. We have Ellie Wren from Factory Farming Awareness Coalition that I want to bring in. Ellie, do you want to talk to us about your experience and what happened at the conference and what moved you?
Yeah, thank you, Naijha, and hello, Eloisa. I attended AVA last week, and I kind of have a cough, so sorry about that. I went on behalf of FFAC, Factory Farming Awareness Coalition, where I am the program coordinator for our Advocacy Institute. Our organization spoke at a few sessions as well, specifically our executive director, Monica Chen, she spoke about empowering people to end factory farming.
Why? Why is that so important to end factory farming? Can you tell us?
We really need to build capacity for our movement, especially targeting youth, because they are the future. And right now, we see that we really need talent in this movement. And by empowering youth, high school and college students, we can build capacity for the movement and sustain ourselves for a long time.
Now, Jennifer Stoveic of the Vegan Women's Summit did a keynote in talking about the future of food is female. What is your thoughts on that?
I think the future of food is food sovereignty. That's
Okay.
what I'm going to say. I feel very strongly about it. I think that while these solutions may be part of the larger scope and the larger solution, I think we have tried and true solutions now. The world currently depends on plants. Not over 90% of our energy intake is plants. And I think that while we're talking about a food system that we want to see transition towards more of a plant-based food system, we cannot forget the plants that in that process, right? And who gets access to them, who gets access to land, who gets access to grow food. And I believe that a decentralized, plan-forward, plant-based food system is the future, even though other technologies may have a small part in it. We're very far away from what food tech is proposing, which is cell-based meat. I'm concerned about the ethics behind it. I mean, New York City right now, there is a company that's doing cell-based meat for animals that live in the wild. So you're talking about your zebras and tigers, and sort of enticing a new market of wanting to, for these exotic meats, if you may. And so while I think technology has a critical part in moving forward, I do believe that food sovereignty and a decentralized food system is the future.
Thank you, Eloisa. Elliot, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, I just saw a LinkedIn post by Dr. Amy Breeze Harper kind of speaking to this as well, like speaking to how the future of food is animal free, but it doesn't really interrogate the racial caste system. And so I want to uplift her work and a course that she's offering called Beyond the Cruelty Free Plantation Model of Food Tech. Afrofuturism as a Regenerative Future. And that is a virtual conference in spring 2023.
Amazing, amazing. There's an important piece when we speak about the vegetarian movement. And excuse me, when Lana Kush opened, we had vegetarian cuisine, and it was pure vegetarian. It didn't include eggs and dairy and all this other stuff that exploited animals. But now vegetarian supposedly is people do consume eggs and milk. Can you speak to the whole, feminist approach and why consuming the eggs and the dairy, is bad overall?
I'll jump in. I think, colonization and the expansion of the dairy industry has been really a way to interrupt motherhood. And so we see that interruption from a baby animal, a baby cow, being ripped apart from their mother. But beyond that, the interruption of the human mother, right, to breastfeed, we have criminalized in many cases and demonized breastfeeding from the human mother to the child, and continue to push these animal-based, cow products, right? Formula for children. Obviously, not everyone can breastfeed, but there are plant-based milk options available. And a lot of folks don't even recognize the amount of processing that baby formula has to go through in order for a baby to be able to digest it. It's not digestible. Like, it's not meant for a human child. And so it's so important for us to really, consider those factors of how motherhood has been interrupted, not just with our relationship to our home and our Mother Earth, or whatever gender you want to apply to it, but also the motherhood being interrupted through colonization. When you see the Black woman being torn apart from her child, or the Indigenous woman being kept away from her child, and then you see the dairy industry being pushed on these communities and being spread throughout the world, and that interruption of motherhood from the beyond human relative, the animal, and all the way down to the humans as well.
Ellie?
Yeah, thank you, Eloisa. I am reading The Sexual Meat of Politics right now by Carol Adams, as part of the book club for Apex Advocacy, actually, which is such a great space. Naijha,
Can you talk about Apex Advocacy since you mentioned it? What is that?
Yeah, well, I'm specifically part of the Global Majority Caucus at Apex Advocacy, and it's a space for Black, Indigenous, and people of the global majority.
Why do we need that? Why?
Because predominantly white spaces they're just different. Like, there's so many different oppressions and dimensions that having this space is just so empowering and very necessary
and safe.
And yes.
Okay, go on with your answer.
So yeah, I've been learning about a lot of what Eloisa said. In our Advocacy Institute at FFAC, we actually teach our students about the connections with feminist theory, and why meat consumption is tied to the masculine identity. I guess to add on to this conversation, I wrote an article for FFAC's website a while ago. It was on anti-Asian racism, Orientalism, and the gendered and racial politics of plant-based eating. That's the title. And I dive into Orientalism, which I feel like isn't discussed enough around food. So Orientalism is a concept that was first coined and described by Edward Said, and it is the fabricated juxtaposition of an exotic, feminine, and deviant Orient, which is like Asia, juxtaposed with the civilized, morally superior Occident, also the West. And Orientalism is a underlying motivation for anti-Asian racism, and it's tied to our food as well. So under Orientalism, Asian men are cast as weak and effeminate, and I think it's no coincidence that tofu, a predominantly a protein that's very popular and originated in Asia, it's also seen as feminine. It's like, the term soy boy, and it's like a derogatory term. And then we have the whole rise of factory farming in the US. So there was this pamphlet produced by the American Labor Federation that was called it was called Meat versus Rice, and it was like juxtaposing like the meat that all these American workers wanted to eat with the rice that like the Chinese workers were eating, and kind of like asking for subsidies for this industry because like they didn't want to be eating the lowly food of the Chinese workers.
Oh, wow. Serious business. Tom is asking if there was a panel to end fur sales. No, there wasn't a panel to end fur sales. What are your thoughts on that, Eloisa and Ellie? Have we seen a lot of those, and should there be more of those?
Yeah, I think, with ending fur sales, I think that there could always be more, right? Whether it's on the policy end or how to activate that grassroots organizing power. Tom, the Animal Policy Alliance is actually focusing on large scale animal cruelty. So it's not just going to be animals used as food, but also animals used as fabric. So we're really hoping to either introduce legislation at the local and state level in different places throughout the country to really, ban fur and end fur sales as well. I think if you go to CAF, there's going to be sort of a national action that's coming up also this week or next week, perhaps, CAFAT. Regarding sales. And I think, with the conference, a lot has to do a lot around movement building as well. I think we cannot forget that. I think campaigning, I think first sales falls under campaigning, but I think a lot of what we saw was around movement building, solutions, and also, how to be a more inclusive movement, which we need. We don't have enough people, and that's why we cannot waste time on infighting. I think that we really need to learn more about restorative justice and how we can move forward together and call each other in instead of calling each other out, because we're not going to ban fur, we're not going to achieve animal liberation if we don't really take a hard look and address the issues within our movement.
Exactly. Ellie, you want to add to that?
I feel like maybe there was a panel on fur sales, but I wasn't present at any of them. I know factory farming is definitely used heavily for the fur industry. At FFAC, we have like a monthly book club or media club, and this month we are going to be watching Slay, which talks about the fashion industry. So I recommend, if you're unfamiliar, to watch that documentary and join our book club.
Yes, I think if people, I wonder if people knew and understood the gruesome, cruel process of manufacturing fur, if they still would purchase fur. I mean, people are using it because they feel this is a warm solution, but if they really saw what was happening in the manufacturing, would they still spend money on this? I mean, it's just horrific. Tara O'Brien, can someone add a name, a link to that 23 conference? I think you mentioned it, Ellie. I'm not sure if you can slip a little link here through the private chat or something, and maybe I can post that. That'd be great. We have another minute or so. I want to ask, how can people engage with you directly, each of you directly in your movements, and help and assist you with everything that you're doing, starting with Eloisa?
Yes, thank you, Naijha. And I just want to add, there are two conferences coming up in person as well. AVA, which is the conference we're speaking about, will be in July in LA. We also have the Lead for Farmed Animal conference, Summit, which I am on the advisory board on, and that's more for skills development for activists. So look out for that. That's Lead, LEAD, for Farmed Animals. So if you want to get in touch with me or support my work, on social media. I'm Elogata, and you can follow Vegan Activist Alliance as well as Chili's on Wheels. And you can support my work not even by following me. Just share a vegan meal with someone near you, with someone who's unhoused or in need, and let them know why that vegan meal is plant-based, and get into conversation with them and be in community with them.
Thank you for that, Eloisa. Ellie, how can people support you and what you're doing in the movement?
Yeah, so I invite you to share our virtual Advocacy Institute with students, high school and college students is who we serve. The Advocacy Institute is an 8-week educational internship, 8 weeks in the summer, 16 weeks in the spring, for students interested in ending factory farming. And we talk about factory farming's effects on people, animals, the planet, and empower you all to become advocates for systemic change in your community. So if you are or know a young person who would benefit from this program, you can reach out. First, you can go to our website, ffacoalition.org, or you could email us at institute@ffacoalition.org, and of course, follow us on social media on all the different platforms.
It's been a pleasure having you on here. It was great to see you at the conference. I look forward to connecting with you again in the near future. Thank you. And stay blessed, stay well. I have another guest coming on to talk about another summit. So thanks again, Eloisa and Ellie. Please sending blessings your way. Have a good one.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, Naijha. Thank you, everyone.
All right. And my next guest is going to talk about the Raw Food Health Empowerment Summit that is coming up tomorrow. Here we have Samantha Salmon. Samantha, how are you doing today? I can't hear you, Samantha. I think you're muted. You'd have to mute yourself.
So sorry. How you doing? Thank you so much for having me on.
No problem. No problem. How are you doing this morning?
Very good. Very good.
So talk to us about what's happening with this is how the second one, the third one. Talk to us about what's happening with the summit.
Yes. So thank you for having me back on again. We launched the Raw Food Health Empowerment Summit last year for free viewing. You can consider this an encore. We're running it a second time. It's the same summit, same interviews. However, we have 2 additional speakers, Ama Apare talking about how she has continued her raw vegan journey as a Black expat in Tanzania, and Lisa Holt, who is a longtime raw vegan who dealt with chronic fatigue, which I thought was so relevant, not only to me personally, but to this time when a lot of people are dealing with fatigue and burnout and a lot of stress after the pandemic and global shutdowns. And you can register for free. So we actually start tomorrow. So I would highly recommend you go to the Raw Food Health Empowerment Summit.com to register today and just clear out your weekend, make it a whole retreat for yourself, and really be inspired by all the talks and the stories and the free gifts. A lot of our speakers have free gifts, meal plans and things like that, and check them out and engage with their businesses too. If this is a health goal for yourself, to eat more raw fruits and vegetables, which I hope for most of us is a goal.
And we have another special guest joining us today. Can you introduce yourself? Thank you and welcome.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. My name is Nuru Zachariah. I'm just happy to be here.
What do you do, Nuru Zachariah?
A few things. Well,
okay.
Well, based off the subject here, as obviously I'm a raw foodist, a raw plant-based foodist. I also am a personal trainer. I'm a certified natural and holistic nutritionist. I'm a herbalist. I'm a botanist. I'm a business person. I'm a spiritualist. I don't have a specific religion, but I'm just into serving God and as a spiritualist.
Why raw food? That's the number one question. Why raw?
Well, that is our innate food system. You know, I mean, you look at nature. Every organism eat their food raw, except the human being. You know, so that tells you something. If you want to know anything about yourself, study nature, and that's what I did. I studied nature, and it just makes sense that we wasn't born with fire coming out of our mouth to cook food. We wasn't born with all the weapons in our hands and knives. We wasn't born with knives with our mouths. We wasn't born with knives on our hands to rip open flesh. We wasn't born with the speed to chase down an impala. We don't enjoy the warm blood dripping down our cheeks and our chin and our chest when we bite into flesh. You know, we enjoy the juices from a peach, the juices from grapes. You know, we look at our hands, these fingers are made to grab, apples, banana, peel a banana peel. Look at our teeth. We grind, we got molars. We don't have, sharp fangs. So that in itself, that just looking at the structure of the body, the anatomy of the body, and then we can go deeper into the chemical aspect, going to the enzymes aspect, the hormones. That all just basically intrigued me when I started reading about it and educating myself about it. And then actually practicing it, being a scientist and doing experiments with just eating majority raw food, that explains itself. That just took me to a whole nother level as far as the physical aspect, how I feel, have more energy, and then to the spiritual, mental aspect, have more clarity, dreams more vivid. My understanding, it became stronger. My mind became clearer. Skin became clearer on the physical aspect. And even my body got more defined structure-wise. So a lot of people think that you go eat raw plant-based, you're going to lose too much weight. It's going to be unhealthy. You're not going to get enough protein, everything. But that's not the case. Yeah, of course you're going to lose some weight, but that weight is just dead weight. That weight is water weight. That weight is all the mucus and toxins in your body, and then it's going to rise up if you're underweight. I mean, you can eat raw food and still gain weight.
Right.
Exactly.
Tell us how. How do we do that? How does that happen?
Well, everybody has an innate weight. So if your innate weight basically is, 170 and you're 150 and you eat raw food, yeah, you might drop down to like 140, 130 something. Then after a while, it's gonna come right back up because the body and food is organic. They are related. They communicate with information. The body, the food in the food chemical or the food intelligence know what to give the body. The body's going to tell that chemical or tell that information or tell the food information or the food chemical that, hey, we weigh 170. So let's work together here and build up this weight. So we have to look at food a little different here. This is energy, just as information we put in our body, and they're always going to communicate. The body's going to communicate because they both have cells, and they both have cells, and we know what cells does. They have information trapped in it, so they both going to communicate with each other. So, and I'm not just talking from just reading books and everything. I'm talking from experience.
Right.
Like, I had gained weight from eating food. And I'm not even talking about eating bad raw food, bad plant-based food. You have some bad, unhealthy plant-based food out there where you can gain weight. I'm talking about natural, organic, light plant-based that you can still gain weight.
It's interesting that you say that, because that was going to be the question that I was going to ask about beginners best pivoting to consuming raw foods. Is it actually beneficial for everybody? Because everybody is made up differently.
Everybody.
So how do they pivot? How do you know if consuming raw foods is good? Because I've heard people consuming raw foods affected them in a negative way. Like, what is the best recommendation? Is it to register for the summit and listen to all the speakers? How should a beginner best pivot?
Okay, as far as people eating raw food and having a negative reaction to it, that comes with some different factors. You know, you have to know what actually plant-based foods to eat. You can't just say, "Oh, this is." First of all, too, I want to separate vegan from plant-based. Mm-hmm. Here, you know, you have some vegans that's unhealthy. Plenty.
Right. Vegan doesn't mean healthy. Vegan just means not consuming or exploiting animals.
Yeah, exactly. But when you eat plants, you specifically focus on plants, and then the certain type of plants here. So like I said, you have hybrid. So the hybrid foods, is a plant, but it's man-made. So the sugar content is off, the molecular structures is off. So that would throw your body off, and that would bring harm. Too much hybrid, too much eating fruits with no season can eventually start affecting you. You know. So, they're getting rid of all these oranges. It's kind of hard to find some oranges with seeds, and then you have some oranges that have a couple of seeds, and that's still not good. But you look at the sugar content. Oh, wow. It's kind of hard for the body to break down that sugar because then you might, develop some type of health problems. So there's a lot of factors that come with it. You have to really study what type of foods is well for you. And one thing I wanted to recommend is study Dr. Sebi. One thing about pivoting towards this raw food, start eating more plant-based, but the plant-based list that Dr. Sebi has recommended. He has a nutritional guide. I have a nutritional guide too. My nutritional guide is kind of based off Dr. Sebi as far as for beginners. And it involves cooked food, but it's majority alkaline cooked food, alkaline in this raw state. When you cook it, is really no longer alkaline, but it's a good step to transition to pivot towards raw food. Start eating the foods as recommended by Dr. Sebi, and then eventually you graduate to eating more raw. Become a 5%er, 10%, 25, 50% of raw, and then eventually, hopefully 100%. And
Thank you, Nuru. Samantha, let's talk about what to expect at the summit. I have the website up. When you bring the website up, it says, yes, I want to claim my free ticket. Walk us through what to expect.
Yeah, so you're going to expect more of what Nuru was just talking about. You asked about like gaining weight and losing weight, and we have speakers that talk about their personal experience. Who comes to mind? Latoya from Infinite Nature. She started off skinny and went raw vegan. She lost weight, but then she also gained weight on a raw vegan diet, and she talks about that. We have Shalita Dodson, who does bodybuilding and she's juicing, which you hear a lot of people talk about you really shouldn't do, right? But she does it, and she's able to build muscle mass as a woman in her 40s, and she's doing it. So really this whole summit, like, you're going to hear a variety of stories of how people manage to go raw regardless of their situation. Nuru's story was the most impactful to me on how he found out about raw veganism and then made it happen in the most restrictive of circumstances that I've ever heard. And you'll just hear all these stories, get inspired, and hopefully leave with, it doesn't matter your situation, how much money you have. If this is a decision for you to be as healthy as possible, you can do it. You just have to decide to do it. And so hopefully you get all the resources and the connection point. So if you want to go further with people, you loved what they had to say, you resonated with their whole vibe, then go deeper with them, work with them. All of their information is there in the summit next to the videos. And if you sign up for the All Access Pass, you have access to it for a lifetime. So you can continue to go back and watch it over and over again.
And we have Antoinette Tony St. Clair, definitely a member of Black Veg Society, tuning in. What a great opportunity to educate and inspire raw plant-based eating. Yes, Tony, thank you for tuning in. Yeah, we got to get Tony in there. She does a food is medicine webinar for Black Veg on, a monthly, every other month basis. So this is really important. I'm looking at the brief description of all the speakers. This is going to be an amazing, and again, this is the second time and third time you're doing this?
The second time, and the last time it will be available for free viewing. So definitely get in. And if you plan to own the summit, it is, I believe, $67 right now. The price is going up once the summit starts, and then it goes up after the summit's over. So if you think you're going to want to own this, you will save $60. It will never be free again. And if you don't want to buy the summit, you just want to try it out, just want to see, you've been curious about raw veganism, you want to know what all the hype is about, just clear your schedule and tune in this weekend. It's on a weekend this time to allow for more people to watch it. Last year, it was a Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. So this year we're trying a weekend. So definitely tune in, make some time for your self-care, make it a little weekend retreat for yourself, and get inspired.
Yes, we have put the link in the comments. So if you want to register, please go to the Raw Food Health Empowerment Summit.com and register and get the package, because I purchased the package because I know schedules are busy and sometimes you're not going to get to watch it through the weekend. So I'd say the best plan is to just purchase it so that you have it forever, because this is valuable information. So I understand pricing having to go up. What other tip or advice would you like to give to the viewers before we leave, and how can we best follow you, each of you? Do you want to start, Nura?
Okay. My advice is to not look at it as, I got to change to veganism, or I got to change to just plant-based. Just look at it as a natural lifestyle. It has to be a lifestyle. Look at it as, we start looking at food a little differently. Look at food as medicine, not food to just put in your stomach where you feel hungry or whatever, but just food that is going to give you energy. Food is going to give you information. Look at food as information. Look at food as it has a spirit in it, and decipher like what I'm gonna get out of this. What information I'm gonna get out of this. You don't look at food as not something that you have to eat 3 times a day, 3-course meal.
I was going to ask you that because I wanted to know what your breakfast, lunch, and dinner routine looks like. Can you tell us?
My routine is basically eating 1 meal a day, which is no breakfast. All right, if I do eat breakfast, it's going to be some water. Or some, and when I say water, I'm not just talking about H2O. I'm talking about H3O2. Us humans and plants, we are made out of, 75% water, but that water is not from H2O, it's from H3O. And you get H3O2 from fruits. That's the juice. So I always say I eat my water. I eat water, not drink water. And a lot of times I juice it, drink it, but that is the best breakfast, but I barely do that. The body is on a biological clock, so I follow that from 12 p.m. to 8 o'clock. That's when I consume. And usually it's just fruits, have a balance of, chlorophyll, which is from dark greens.
Yes.
And balance it with fats, with nuts, hemp seeds and, walnuts, Brazil nuts. And that's basically it. But majority of the time I drink. I like to, make smoothies, shakes, and then I might snack on some fruits here and there. But that's mainly my eating schedule. I might eat 2 times a day, but that is filling, And one thing crazy about it that I found out while I was in prison, I converted while I was in prison in a harsh, limited condition. And I had to stay alive. If I'm gonna make this change, I really get down, because I'm gonna die here. With the food they serve, it's just terrible.
Right.
For me to stay alive, they took my freedom, and they're not gonna take my mind, they're not gonna take my health. So I was like, I have to survive. And I came across this raw foods while I was in prison. prison, and I had to actually like go out there in the yard, the field, to pick my herbs, wild herbs that grew, that we look at it as weeds, like dandelions. So I started picking, and it was looking at me crazy. And that's what I talk about in the summit as well. Just I go deeper into it, how I converted. But that's basically it. Like, that's how I structure my day. And I look at it as this is information. And then I mix it with so many medicinal herbs. I put my fruits, when I blend, I throw some sea moss in it, or some lion's mane in it to give, my brain function some energy, to clear out the mucus, because fruits and herbs go good together, hand to hand. So that's basically my day. Is like, we've been educated on 3 meals a day, eat breakfast, pancakes, cereal, and that's just interrupting the elimination period, because the body's on elimination period from that time, from 8 a.m. to 12 p.m. So the reason why we have less energy, somebody is trying to lose weight, the reason why you having a difficult time losing weight is because you're interrupting that flow. You put it in things, in information, put it in death information, because cooked food and like meats and dairies, that just it's not alive, and it doesn't have any energy. We are electrical beings, and we need to put in electrical food, other electrical beings.
That's why folks need to register for this summit. You're tuning in to Naijha Speaks. You're listening to Nuru Zachariah. How can people follow you right now if they want to follow you and follow your message?
Well, I have, you can find me on social media. You can find me on Nuru Botanicals, one straight word, on Instagram. You can also find me on Facebook, Nuru Botanicals. It's an online botanical store. I have different medicinal herbs offered. A 7-day detox plan that would just go into the intracellular and detox your body. Also, you can find me at just my personal page, Nuru Zachariah, Nuru_Zachariah on Instagram, and also on Facebook. I have I just started a juice bar. And
where's the juice bar?
It's in Arizona.
Okay.
Levine, Arizona. It's actually inside LA Fitness.
Nice.
Yes. So I opened that maybe like 2.5 months ago. That's just another avenue to educate and promote raw foodism. We have 2 menus. One menu is just all nothing but add-ons as far as medicinal herbs, and then they can add it on to their smoothies and shakes. So you can also find me in Levine, Arizona, inside LA Fitness. It's called Add On Smoothies.
Add On Smoothies. Love it. Thank you.
We have an Instagram also, Add On Smoothies, one word, too. So you can find me there.
Awesome. I appreciate it. Thank you. Samantha. Okay. The tips and how do we best follow you as we begin to close out?
Yeah, well, you could follow me at Raw Food Meal Planner everywhere. On Twitter, I'm Raw Food Meal Plan. On YouTube, I'm Samantha Salmon. But the best place to find me and connect with me this weekend is rawfoodhealthempowermentsummit.com. And you said tips, right? Tips, pieces of advice. Watch the summit. That is a great entry point if you have never heard about raw foods before, or if you have been doing raw and you've had difficulty sticking with it. Definitely watch the summit. We talk about perfectionism in the raw food movement, and honestly, there's no reason for that. So like we dive into a lot of it. Also, if people feel like raw foods is a quick pill to cure all, it is not, which is why I thought it was so important to have Lisa Holt on the summit this year talking about chronic fatigue, because she's a personal trainer, a raw foodie for like at least 2-3 decades or something. And then she dealt with chronic fatigue. So it's like we can still get sick even though we eat clean, because there's more to holistic health than kale and green juices, which are super important. But there's other parts of the body we need to attend to as well.
Awesome. I'm going to bring up the speaker list again. Folks, great information. you want to go raw, learn more about raw, you want to register for this summit, Raw Food Health Empowerment Summit.com. You are tuning in to Naijha Speaks. I'm on every Thursday at 11. Please subscribe, like, share, and comment. I'm the executive director of the Black Veg Society, which is meeting people where they are on their holistic health, vegan, and plant-based journey. Please support us at blackvegsociety.org. It was a pleasure having you on, Samantha and Nuru, and I'm looking forward to watching the summit. Thank you again. All right, everyone, whatever you do, please stay well, stay blessed, and peace out. Have a good one. Bye-bye.
Bye.